Hi and welcome to this video where I'll be exploring the new creative plugin from Audiomodern, Gatelab. The good news is that Gatelab is free and I'll place a link in the video description so that you can download your own copy. Gatelab offers more than just the creative gating of audio, as it has a few tricks up its sleeve. And as well as an audio mode, it also has a MIDI controller mode too. But to look at Gatelab in action, I'm going to load up the latest version of Chordjam and have it generate some chords to experiment upon. This is Chordlab 1.11, and if you haven't seen my earlier video of Chordlab, you can check it out by clicking on the link in the top right hand corner of the video now. The main new additions are chord inversions and the ability to lock individual voices within the chord itself. This means that those notes within the chord won't alter whilst randomizing. Another new feature of Chordjam is the ability to detect either from audio or MIDI by simply dragging and dropping a MIDI file or an audio file into this box. It'll suggest the appropriate scale and key. I'm using a pad sound on Vital from the excellent Anomaly sound set by Signs of Life. If you're a Vital user and into ambient music, it's packed full of excellent sounds, and I've put a link to it in the description. As the sound has a long attack and release, rather than just play block chords, I've set Chordjam to generate a random arpeggio. The sequencer is set to random, so it picks random chords from the D minor scale, and I've set it to refresh every 2 cycles. So the end result sounds like this. So I've set up an insert within Vital, and on the insert I have inserted Gatelab. So let's have a look at that now. I'll engage Gatelab after playing a few bars. So I'm bringing Gatelab in now. And this is rather what you might expect. This button randomizes the gate effect. And the complexity is set over here from a light complexity to basically more on gates as it progresses. We can take it much further than that and make it much more musical results. This balance here is the wet-dry slider, so if I take that down to sort of 25% and have a listen to it, we can hear the background sound, but we're still getting the pumping effect from the gate. And of course you're free to draw in your own selection or hit randomize. There's also, if I switch to stereo, the left and the right channels are being processed separately. Let's have a listen. The command on the left is a feather command, so that sort of introduces the gate slowly. So let's generate another pattern. And that really is the gate mode in Gatelab. But now we can take it further. This is the flow mode, which lets us select different values rather than just open and close of the gate. Again, we can randomize that. Let's have a listen to the effect. We can also have sort of subdivisions of each step. If I type in a value here of, say, 3, and have it generate, you'll see that it's created some half steps and some double steps. Another nice touch is the fade out and the fade in options up here. As it goes through each cycle, it will gradually reduce the bars so that the gating effect is reduced each time, so good for fade in and fade outs. So there's the first pass with the bars cutting, the second, and it'll fade out, and then gradually we can fade in, doing a similar sort of effect. So before we go on to look at the MIDI side of Gatelab, let's set up an appropriate patch for this particular sound, and I'll do that by going in the preset folder. And if we have a look at this one, you'll see that what this does is gently increases effectively the gain of the left channel, and decreases the gain at the similar point in the right hand channel. So what we're getting is a bit of extra stereo movement. So if I have the feather around about the 50% mark and adjust the wet dry balance, we'll get quite just introducing a little extra movement into the pad itself. And now we'll move on and have a look at the MIDI side of Gatelab. As Gatelab is an audio effect with a MIDI output, I've created a blank audio track and loaded Gatelab as an insert on that track. So I'm going to route the MIDI to Serum in order to use the generated CCs to control parameters in Serum. So let's have a look at some of the MIDI options by clicking the MIDI icon here. You'll see that each lane has its own MIDI channel, and you can switch the lane on or off. For each channel you can set its own CC values, and you can also, say you've got a multi-timbral VST, you may choose to switch off Omni and select an individual MIDI channel if you're using a multi-channel VST. For most uses, Omni will be just fine. And you can also specify a minimum and maximum CC range. So if, for example, you only want to modulate the filter cutoff, for sake of argument, by a small amount, you can set, say, a value of, say, 50 to 100, and it will edit it within a much narrower range rather than the full extreme of 0 to 127. So with Serum loaded, I've selected one of the patches from another Signs of Life sound set, Ancient Technology. The patch is Cobblestones, and I'm going to use Riffer to generate a quick 16-note riff. So with the Riffer set to D minor, let's roll the dice and see what happens. So the pattern that I've decided on is this one. So what I'm going to do now is disable the input from Riffer so that I don't get any doubled up notes, and drag the MIDI pattern onto the desktop and stretch out the arrangement like so. So let's take a little step back and review what we've done. We've got Chordjam generating random chord phrases, arpeggiating them and sending them to Vital. Then Riffer generated a pattern for Serum, which we've copied into the Serum MIDI channel, and we're now going to manipulate that with Gatelab. So what I've done is I've selected the Gatelab that was on the audio track, and I've selected the input for Serum to be set to Gatelab MIDI output. So let's assign some CCs to Serum. I suppose the obvious parameter to play with would be the filter cutoff. So if we go to the matrix of Serum, you'll see that filter cutoff is assigned to both envelope 2 and velocity. So to avoid confusion, I'm just going to switch velocity off. You'll also find out it's a well-programmed patch, this, so you'll find that, for example, filter cutoff is also controlled by Aftertouch and the mod wheel, so you can introduce that yourself manually. But the purpose of this exercise is really to have a look at Gatelab and what it can do automatically for you. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take down the output of envelope 2, which is controlling the filter cutoff, and you'll hear the effect that that has on the sound. So that's the parameter that we want to modulate with Gatelab. The setup for each digital audio workstation will be slightly different, but in the case of Cubase I have to leave the monitor button enabled for the track so that it sends from Gatelab into Serum. So let's call up Gatelab now, and let's select the MIDI page. And remembering that we want to adjust the filter cutoff, I'm going to right click on filter cutoff, select MIDI learn, and the first MIDI channel here is set to MIDI CC number 3. So if I switch that on, you'll see that it has learnt CC number 3, and now when I press play, that is animating in accordance with the pattern here in lane number 1. So let's think of another parameter that we can modulate. Let's have a look at the effects, and if we go to the, say, the mix parameter of the delay line, let's set up the second one, the second lane, to adjust that. So that's set to a different CC, number 4. So I'll switch the other one off so we're not sending number 3 at the same time. Switch on, well, first of all, we'll right click on the mix button, select Midi Learn, and again, this will vary from plugin to plugin. Some have some you can literally type in the value. Others have MIDI learns that you can learn whatever value you're sending. If I switch that on now, it should send a parameter equivalent to CC number 4. And likewise, if I now press play, you'll see that the mix value is being adjusted. So we can now engage both of them. And let's go back to the pattern page, and we'll adjust that setting so that we're gradually opening and closing the mix value of the delay, and equally certain notes are being emphasized based on this pattern, pattern number 1 in Gatelab. So let's have a listen to the end result. Well, I hope this video has given you an insight into what Gatelab is capable of. It is free of charge, so go ahead and download it from the Audiomodern website if you need a flexible audio gator with MIDI CC capabilities. If you're into music technology, do check out some of our other videos. I'm sure there'll be something of interest, and please consider subscribing, as that helps me to keep making videos in the future. So for now, I'm going to close out this video by loading up a bass patch from one of the free ambient transmission sound banks, also by Sounds of Life. And until the next video, thanks for watching.